G'day mates, in today's video I'm going to be doing my FNCS Grand Finals predictions, but this time around I made it even spicier. In yesterday's video I got you guys to tell me who you thought was going to come top 5 on EU and NA East. I got over 1,500 responses and I want to compare what you guys picked to what I picked. So Grand Finals is starting today. As of this video going live, let's look at who the favorites are, who I think is going to pop off, and some of the big names that unfortunately I think are going to struggle. These drop maps are insane and we have some of the biggest teams in the world like Tayson and Chappiks getting contested. So there's a lot to talk about. Let's just jump into it. Now remember, after you're done watching today's video, swing by my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/Aussie Antics. I'll be live both days watching EU, NA East, and NA West, bringing all the hype, but not just that, giving away over $500 in your guys' predictions. So I'm playing Fantasy Fortnite. I've made a website where you guys can pick your top 10 teams. Whoever gets the closest to getting those top 10 teams is gonna win a share of $500. It's a bunch of prizes. It's a lot of fun. It costs nothing to enter. Make sure you guys swing by. It's gonna be a good time. Let's kick off talking with EU because this is an interesting one and there's one main reason why. Before I even say my top 5, I'm going to specifically say who is not in my top 5. Tayson and Chappiks, and this is a very sketchy one. If you look at the drop map, you will very quickly realize why this is. Tayson and Chappiks are being contested by Podesai and X-Sweezy. Now, I know it was a trio cup. I know it wasn't as important as FNCS, but recently, Tayson and Chappiks gone up against Podesai and X-Sweezy at mid-map. It looked terrible. It did not look like any one team was going to consistently walk away with that loot every single time. Either they have to 50-50 and drop on the antenna that's right up near that north side of mid-map, or they have to drop on the south side, get what loot they can, and then either push over and fight, or just leave with that very minimal loot. And you also have to remember, all of this is going on while Mustache and Malabuka, unarguably one of the best fighting teams in the world, is right next to them getting all their loot. So unless they win that fight instantly, I mean out 50-50 drop them, get the guns, kill them straight away, they are gonna get pushed by a healthy Mustache and Malabuka every single time. So unfortunately, I think this might be one of the first grand finals in a very long time where Tayson and Chappiks will not place on the podium or top 5. Again, I will be very happy to be proven wrong, but it's going to be a big 50-50, and as we all know, the more of a 50-50, the less skill matters. Tayson and Chappiks are still one of the best teams in the world. That is not what I'm saying whatsoever, but I am saying the unfortunate circumstance is with their drop spot and how it looks like it's going to play out, I just can't see them doing incredible. If this changes, if they stop getting dropped on, that goes out the window. They are one of, if not the favorite to win EU, just as always. But Podesai and X-Sweezy are a good team. They have good ping and they know how to drop this drop map, so it's not really as skillful as what we'd like to see, but I guess we'll see how that one plays out. Now into my top 5, because I just wanted to intro the fact that they were not in my top 5. First off, we have Kami and Seti coming off the back of insane performances. They got first and second at DreamHack Solos, not a duo event, but in the last duo cash cups we have so far had a first, second, fourth, and sixth, so you know they know what they're doing when it comes to duos. They came third in week 2 of the FNCS qualifiers. That's how they've now qualified. So unfortunately, we haven't seen them in an FNCS lobby for over a month now because of the break. They also came third at the Saudi land. So they're coming off the back of insane consistency right now. They, of course, are dropping the Kami split. We all know this. If you guys haven't seen it, it is here on the map. It's this gas station area and every bit north of it. They have been looking very, very good out of this split. We know that Kami and Seti perform well out of split drops. The biggest issue is going to be whether they can get their hands on the grapple gloves. As you can see, the grapple glove area right near them is being heavily contested by Karma and Yapko and Mustache and Malabuka. So I don't know whether they're going to be able to get their hands on the grapple gloves, but they get more than enough loot on their route. And if there's two teams fighting over them, that's really good surge opportunity for them. Also, they have Trulex, Chico, Kezix, and Forziar who are fighting at Rocky Reels, which makes me think they might actually sneak over and get the grapple gloves, which are to the south. Almost every single cash cup, if Rocky Reels is contested, Kami and Seti make their way over and they grab them. But not only that, they usually play very, very aggressive on the team in Rocky Reels, especially if their fight just ended. So Kezix, Forziar, Trulex, and Chico are going to have to end their spawn fights very, very quickly if they want to walk away, because Kami and Seti are going to be moving fast to make a play on that. They do have a split drop, which takes them longer to loot. They can't just loot and instantly rush them, but Rocky Reel fights can really drag out, especially when most of them seem to split that east to west. You land up on the board and you take shots down, or you land on the west side, you get the loot and you kind of turtle up. So it could take a while for that fight to play out. Either way though, Kami and Seti are definitely a top 5 pick coming into this. Next up, we have the reigning FNCS champion, only one, not champions, Queasy and Vino. Vino obviously no longer playing with Aqua. We already discussed that. He has had a hand injury, which meant that he wasn't able to play as much as he would like. So Vino took the chance to instead play with Queasy. They're now dropping Shifty Shafts. The main reason they're going Shifty, because again, a lot of people actually underrate Shifty. It is a phenomenally good drop. What makes it one of the best drops on the map, and the reason why Queasy and Vino have been so successful from there, are the grapple gloves. Queasy and Vino are the high ground kings. They drop, they get the grapple gloves, they use those to stay front side or flank high ground, and it is one of the keys to their success right now. And success they've had so far in Duo Cash Cups, their notable placements are first, and seconds. They've almost won 3 Duo Cash Cups so far. They qualified by coming 3rd in week 1 of finals, so it took them a single week to qualify into FNCS. And again, it's the playstyle we know and love from Vino when he was playing with Aqua, but now we have Queasy. And again, because Vino's not playing with Aqua, high ground is even more free. It's still heavily contested on EU, but with Tayson and Chapix, we already talked about being locked down. That's another very, very aggressive high ground team that will not be in this lobby. We no longer have Hen and Queasy playing together because Vino is now playing with him, and we no longer have Vino and Aqua. So they have taken out 2 of the high ground teams by becoming the high ground team. So it'll be very interesting to see how they go. They're still going to have to keep eyes out for players like Thomas and Tripper and just any other player in EU, because honestly, so many of them are so aggressive on high. But I really think if they get consistent with the high ground games, they're going to pick up, in my opinion, at least I would say 2 to 3 wins across the weekend, potentially more. If they can keep their games consistent around that, they are going to be very dangerous. And also in the most recent Duo Cash Cup where they played phenomenally well, I think they came 2nd, or was that when they came 1st? No, they came 2nd. It was with South zones. They had all South zones, or at least 5 of 6, and they played really, really well. And that would be the most difficult zone you could expect from them. So they've already proven within the last week in set lobbies that even with bad zones, they can still perform phenomenally well. They have to be a top 5 pick. Next up, I just mentioned them, Thomas and Tripper out of the Rave Cave, more specifically South Rave Cave. If you look at the drop map, it always makes Rave Cave look sketchier than what it is because you see 3 teams dropping there, but I believe Loki and Sango will be dropping on the very top side. Nebs and Marine are going to be going on that north side where the air tunnel is and going in the water area there. So Thomas and Tripper do have that south side, including the vault and all the insane amount of material, and it is a very, very good drop spot for them. Thomas has been going here for seasons now. We know they make it work, and again, they have been making it work. Their placements so far, they've got a 1st, 4th, and 1st in the Cash Cups so far this season, and they came 2nd in week 2 of FNCS finals, so almost getting the top spot. They are very, very dangerous team, and Thomas has a lot of eyes on him. Thomas right now is known to be one of undisputedly the best players in EU, and they're going to be looking to play that super aggressive high ground as well, but I actually think Thomas and Tripper are one of the most deadly mid ground teams. They try to stick away from that low ground. They don't go Kami and Seti playstyle where they run up the low in the end games. They do take high ground when they can get it, but right now with how good a fighting team Thomas and Tripper is, especially with the weaponry they walk out of Rave Cave with, almost always having a guaranteed gold or purple weapon each, they just have the firepower to absolutely dominate the mid ground, and that's where they pick up their eliminations. It's difficult to be incredibly consistent with that playstyle. You have to play it flawlessly, but in a 12-game format, if you do play it flawlessly, what you do get are consistent high kill, high placements, and that is exactly what Thomas and Tripper do. So they, again, have to be a top 5 on almost anyone's pick. Next up, and you guys are freaking out that I haven't already said them, we have what has become a quick fan favorite as well as just a really good pick, Malibuka and Mustache. I talked about them a little bit at the start with Tayson and Chapix. They are dropping mid-map. They're dropping on that east side of mid-map, and just for the same reason why I talked about why I think Tayson and Chapix are going to have a very rough tournament, I think Malibuka and Mustache are going to have a good one, because if they can clean up those fights, get those surge tags, they are going to be looking absolutely phenomenal. What does concern me though is if Tayson and Chapix start having not a lot of success against Potasai, or maybe Potasai is not having a good amount of success, where do you think they're going to look to drop? Probably very quickly try and take a 50-50 against Mustache and Malibuka and see if their luck is any better. I don't know whether that will be the case, and again, Malibuka's coming off insane win at the Saudi Arabia LAN event alongside Epic Whale, not Mustache, but I believe Mustache himself, I think, came top 5 as well, playing phenomenal with a brand new teammate as well. So far, they have had a few good placements in Cash Cups so far this season. They qualified by coming 4th in week 1 of the FNCS qualifier, calls. So it only took them 1 week, and you know they are going to pop off. They're at least, I guarantee, going to have 2 to 3 wins with double-digit elims, and that is a big claim. 2 to 3 wins, all of them with double-digit elims, at least 2 of them. Malabuka and Mustache are one of the best fighting teams in the world, hands down, if not the best. And they've just come off the back of the consistency in trios. Again, I know it's a trio cup, it wasn't duos, and it wasn't taken as seriously, but they were looking phenomenal alongside Tayson, and maybe playing in a trio cup with Tayson, they've won some brownie points to not have him drop on them. I don't know. I don't think Tayson is like that. I'm sure Tayson will be just keying anyone he can to do well in his tournament, but I'm sure Tayson will be a little bit more aggressive towards the POTA side, the team contesting him, than he will his trio mates of Malabuka and Mustache. We'll have to see how the early game plays out, but unless something goes weird in the mid-map that gets them caught up in it, they're most likely just going to get good surge, free elims, and then go on to have their insanely dominant endgames like we know they do. Sorry, I do need to put another asterisk in here. There have been rumors that Wox and Roban might be dropping on Malabuka Mustache. If that is the case, my prediction is obviously going to shift pretty quickly. 2 contested teams at mid-map, and there's 4 teams at mid-map is going to be absolutely shambles. That is going to be chaotic. It's going to be fun to watch, but it is going to be very hard to be consistent from. So I'll still leave Mustache and Malabuka in there, but keep in mind, if all of a sudden they're not doing well after day 1 on the leaderboard and they are contested, don't come at me flaming me. This is with the idea that they are uncontested. If any team is going to do well while contested, though, it's going to be Malabuka and Mustache. They did very, very well last FNCS while contested by Pink and Anas. So we'll have to see. Mid-map is a little bit more 50-50 than what Rave Cave was at the top side, but hey, we'll see how it goes. Last up, I'm going with the Frenchman. Last season was one of the worst seasons we've ever seen for the French players across the board. A lot of them split and reformed and created some incredibly deadly duos, one of them being Antics and Snazy. They are dropping mid-map at Coney Crossroads, a fantastic drop, a very underrated drop, especially if you get it to yourself, and especially if there is an absolute fiesta going on at mid-map. If there's 4 teams contesting mid-map, you know another POI nearby like Antics and Snazy will be very quickly looking over for surge and free eliminations. They have been playing very, very consistent so far this season. They have a 4th and an 8th in the Duo Cash Cup so far, but they came 1st in week 2 of the FNCS qualifiers. They were the best team in week 2. They also came 4th with, so Antics and Scram came 4th at Saudi. So again, not playing with their actual teammates, but Antics is coming in very, very hot. This is a veteran duo right now, and I do really think this will be the return of the French teams. French teams were so dominant at the end and all the way through Chapter 2. Chapter 3 has been a little bit quiet for them, especially like I said last season, but I think some fresh teams and some fresh faces have really reinvigorated what is one of the most dominant scenes here on EU, and I think Antics and Snazy will back that up. Now, I am leaving some big names off this list, and I have to give special mention, obviously, to Vidil Janus, looking absolutely fantastic at the moment as far as on paper. Their drop spot looks amazing. They're going Greasy Grove. They're uncontested, but they just haven't been consistent enough throughout the qualifying weeks and the Cash Cups for me to really want to put them in my top 5. A lot of that was due to the kind of weird triangle fight that was going on down there. They had Noah Riley and Rezon dropping to their southwest in that kind of mushroom area, but then Nebs and Orion were also further to their west and was creating weird engagements that were dragging out, going for grapple gloves, and it got a little bit messy. Noah Riley and Rezon are now dropping their uncontested. Again, another team that I wish I could put in my top 5, but have just not really shown the consistency I'd like. Noah Riley still one of the craziest fighters in the world, but so far has been a little bit quiet in Chapter 3, but this could be the FNCS where they prove me and a lot of doubters wrong, because I would not be surprised if they pop off. And then, of course, the big boys, Hen and Savage. Now, again, Hen and Savage uncontested. I would love to pick them. They got Vico and Jackson dropping south side of Tilted, but most Tilted teams don't engage that much unless they're really down on points and they start wanting to get aggressive and get those elims up. But Hen and Savage have been inconsistent at best. You guys know this. They haven't been doing that well throughout the season, despite being a phenomenal team on paper. But Mr. Savage has some of the most experience in all of EU when it comes to stacked grand final lobbies, and when the pressure's on, Savage knows how to not crumble. Most of the time Savage has underperformed in grand finals, he's been contested. So I would be very, very sad to see Savage have a bad performance now finally being uncontested with a phenomenal teammate in Hen. I'm very excited to be proven wrong. If they place top 5, no one will be happier than me, but it was just a little bit too hard to put them in my top 5. Also, special shout out to Pink and Anas, again out of Joneses. Pink and Anas were right on the edge of my top 5, and if I'm going to be proved wrong by any team, it's going to be them. The biggest issue for them, as it is with any Joneses team like Clicks, which we'll talk about in a little bit, is Storm Surge. It's a rough drop for Storm Surge. Surge, but I love the way Pink and Anas play it. They just play it with full confidence. It looks like they're going to potentially make a play down towards Shuffle Shrine or even towards the team that drops to the south of them, Shizo and Force. They'll probably even make a play on Yuzuri and Kiduo or Kiro and Jerdy if they can as well. Get their hands on the grapple glove, get that early surge, and then rotate. It's just, Jones is a tough drop. It has a lot of loot, but we are seeing historically this season a lot of good teams struggle out of this drop spot, and that's the main reason why I'm scared to see how they go. But no one is going to have worked harder coming into this grand finals than Pink. I just know he's put in the hours. I know he's voted, reviewed as hard as he can. Both of them are coming off the back of their no build Saudi LAN win, but it's still a LAN win. Hype is high. I'm sure that remotivated them to come back into this FNCS heavy, and I really hope they do come top 5. I do want to give a special shout out to Stormy Ride, Default, and iDrop and Jerky. Stormy Ride had a very rough season last season. We all know what was going on there. So many bigger things going on in the world and in his life than Fortnite, and I think there is absolutely no surprise that last season was an iffy one for him. But him and Default are back to play, and out of Condo, they are looking very, very strong. iDrop and Jerky as well. I love Jerky. He's one of my favorite pros. He is so passionate, and I really want to see him perform. They're dropping Logjam Lotus, one of the rotating POIs, the only person I predicted today out of a rotating POI, but we'll see how they go. I know no one again is going to have worked harder coming into this than Jerky. iDrop is one of the best fighters in the world. If they can put it together, if they can get a few good zones and get their surge sorted, which I think is going to be their biggest issue, I think they are going to be a favorite to potentially prove me wrong and be an underdog for top 5. Also, special shout out to Michael and Astro. Michael and Astro play Bugle so incredibly well, and I don't think they get anywhere near enough credit. This is one of the best teams I've ever seen in the world while contested. And if any team who's contested is going to have a big performance, it's going to be them. Even though they're up against Hardfine and ADN, Michael and Astro are just a different beast. And because they're contested, I don't want to put them top 5, but even in 12 games, I see them taking like 8 or 9 out of Bugle. I hope I haven't just cursed them. Now, let's look at how you guys stacked up. Let's take a look at your predictions here. Your top 5 so far in EU looked very similar to mine with one major exception. Tayson and Chapix were picked by 79% of you, the highest picked team. And again, I think that's just because it is Tayson and Chapix. And a lot of you maybe didn't check the drop maps, or maybe you're just that confident that if any team can come out and get a top 5 well contested, it is going to be this team. And I have to agree with you. So you picked that one. Queasy and Vino, 75.5%. We agreed there. Mustache and Malibuka, 78.8%. So only 0.3% behind Tayson and Chapix. We agreed. Then you had Tripburn and Thomas at 50.2% of you, and Seti and Kami at 68. So again, very, very high confidence there across the board. The highest confidence you had in a team that I didn't predict in my top 5 was absolutely no surprise, Pink and Anas, with 46.4% of you picking it. Again, big shout out to Hen and Savage, 19.9%. I genuinely thought it would be higher just because I know Hen and Savage, especially Savage, got a lot of fanboys, but a lot of you guys clearly have been paying attention to their history, and we'll see if they prove us wrong. But again, thank you for giving your submissions. I love the fact that I can compare those, and I guess we'll see. Maybe you guys are smarter than me, and Tayson and Chapix proves me wrong and proves you guys right. Moving on over to NA East, I want to kick off with the FNCS champions of old. Not last season's FNCS champions, the two before, Booga and Miro, because this is a big question mark one. Do I have them on my top 5 because of their performance this current season? No, they have not been performing that well in Cash Cups, but it's Booga and Miro. Very regularly, we see them throughout the regular season not try that hard, seem to not really care that much, and then show up big for grand finals. When the pressure is on, when they care, and when they're trying, they are an incredibly dominant team. They didn't win last FNCS, but they did come top 3, and I'd be very, very surprised to see this team not make a top 5. If there was going to be a season for them to finally slip off their pressure and have the dominance they've had on NA East now spanning even into trios, it is going to be this season. Booga and Miro have been playing even less than what they normally do. We'll have to see whether they can still pull it off. Chonkas Speedway is a phenomenal drop. They know how to play it. They know how to rotate. We haven't seen too much of them with the new Storm Surge change, and that's what scares me a little bit. Storm Surge is far more aggressive now, and it's far more punishing for edge map teams. Yes, they have splashes. Yes, they have good weaponry, but they're gonna have to take pretty early engagements or have their surge aim completely on point. So they are a bit of a question mark, but I wanted to open up with them because I still think with all of that aside, they have to be in your top 5. For my second pick, it's only fair to pick the second place king himself, Senton. I know that sounds mean, but having placed in so many FNCSs now in the top 2, not having got a win, you can't not have him in your top 5. He has to be in your top 5, especially when alongside Cold, he has already placed 2nd and 5th in the previous FNCSs. He is dropping mid-map right now. They have had insane consistency from this drop, having already won 2 cash cups this season, including the most recent one coming in to this grand final. So they're coming in hot alongside a 3rd place as well. So very, very consistent for them. Mid-map is going to be an interesting drop on NA East. It is equally contested like it is on EU. There's more teams looking in who rotate in and take that engagement as well. Senton and Cole, for the most part, I don't think are going to play as aggressive as Malibuca and Mustache. It looks like they were having some early and mid-game surge issues in the most recent Cash Cup. They won it, but at the same time, that was their biggest downfall. If they make endgame, they run up the low ground like they always do, and they are looking absolutely phenomenal. The main thing though for them is I don't believe they are going to be getting the grapple gloves every single game. Maybe they will. Rise and Trash is the only other team that is contesting them for the grapple gloves, and with them being on the Kami split and having so long to loot, I'm going to guess they might not be playing as aggressive onto Senton and Cold. So if Senton and Cold get grapple gloves consistently, they are 100% going to place top 3 in this FNCS Grand Finals. There is just absolutely no way they don't. They will be trading that early game opportunity to be aggressive onto the fight of Skittles, Users, and Tahi and Bank, or they might just get those range tags and then get the grapple gloves rather than trying to aggressively key. The thing is, they have to pick one or the other. I think if they aggressively push mid-map and Rise and Trashy realize this, they're going to take the chance to go get the grapple gloves. The main thing for Rise and Trashy is they loot their drop a lot slower than Senton and Cold, so Senton and Cold have control of whether they want to get the grapple gloves or whether they trade them for early surge and eliminations. Next up, we have one of the hardest working teams on NA East, Iomzo and Jampa. Now, Jampa has to probably be the most underrated player on NA, at least as far as the mainstream goes. Anyone who follows competitive Fortnite knows how incredible Jampa is, but I know that if Jampa and Iomzo win this FNCS or place highly, there's still going to be kids who are now saying Jampa is being carried by Iomzo, because everyone says Jampa gets carried by everyone, even though he has now IGL'd his way to 2 top 2s in FNCS trios. Jampa is phenomenal. They're dropping Rave Cave. They've been dropping Rave Cave for a very long time. Iomzo knows this drop so incredibly well, and so far, coming in off the Cash Cups, they have a 2nd, 3rd, 5th, and 7th, and this is their first FNCS as a duo, but so far have been looking incredible. They have been working alongside BloodX as a coach. They have been grinding incredibly hard. I would say they are the hardest working team in NA, maybe up there with Centered, and I know they have been putting this break into action, and they've been practicing like crazy. This 3-week break really is going to decide which teams put in the work, put in the homework, and which ones were taking it chill and easy like most of us were. And I think Iomzo might finally have the FNCS placement that he deserves. He is one of the best fighters and players on NA, and I think this is going to be the FNCS where he proves it. My last pick, absolutely no surprise, is Edgy and Acorn. They came top 5 last FNCS. So they've already proven they can do it. They are going the same drop spot at the north side of Tilted. The biggest issue for them is, unlike Hen and Savage, there's not only one other team dropping Tilted, there are 2. And that spawn fight could very quickly spill over and cause them some grief and start taking some of their loot. Or if Edgy and Acorn capitalize on that, that could be some free surge and elims that they get that other teams at Tilted in the other regions won't have. So it's whether Edgy and Acorn can flip this one into a positive. And if you guys watch my stream, you know I talk a lot of crap on Edgy. We have an interesting relationship, but I would love to see this duo pop off and perform. Remember, just like Centered, Edgy has been in 2nd place runner-up for so many FNCSs now, and this could be the one where they take it. Edgy and Acorn have been working incredibly hard. They're a very, very good duo. They have stuck it out through very poor seasons, and they've celebrated with very high seasons. So I really, really love the vibes they bring, and I know they have some of the best chemistry of any duo in NA East, and I think that's going to show this weekend. Now, I already know what the comments are going to look like. I didn't pick Clicks and Dukes, and I apologize, but I'm going to have to stick by that. Clicks and Dukes, Uncon Joneses, looking like they're going to make a play for the grapple gloves that Muzz and Playerfire are going for. They just don't have the consistency this season. We say it every single season. I say it in every single video. I love Clicks. I would be happily proven wrong if he pops off and dominates. He's been working very, very hard, but the same issues he's had in previous seasons with Storm Surge look like they've been fixed for the most most part. Dukes is far better at getting Storm Surge than Day, and in the Cash Cups we've seen recently, Surge hasn't been their issue, but there are some other areas of their gameplay that seem to come unstuck, especially in 12-game formats where consistency is rewarded the highest. They have the potential to win games. They have the potential to dominate. Can they keep it together for all 12 games? That is going to be the question. If they can, then they 100% are a top 5 team. It's just whether they can find that consistency. Some other notable mentions that I feel bad not including in my top 5, we have Death and Tabney, which were my underrated dark horse pick of last season, and they unfortunately did end up getting contested, which cost them their season, but I'm sticking by it here. I think Death and Tabney are going to surprise a lot of people. If anyone is going to have an insane pop-off this season and really show people they are a duo to pay attention to, it is Death and Tabney. This time they're uncontested at Coney Crossroads. They're coming in with some good Cash Cup placements so far this season, having got a 5th, 8th, 9th, and 15th. And the last 2 FNCSs they played together, though, they did get 25th and 26th. But like I said, contested. Let's see what they can do when they're uncontested. Now, Rise and Trashy, I talked about them on the Kami split. Very, very consistent team. Rise has been a very notable pro in NA East for quite a while now, but hasn't really had that big performance to cement him as one of the best players in NA. And this could be the one to do it. This is their first FNCS as a duo so far this season. They've come 3rd, 7th, and 9th in the Cash Cups. Also, we have Commandment and Avery. Now, this is a big question mark one because it's their first FNCS as a duo. Commandment hasn't really been taking the game that seriously since trios, but a lot of people have been telling me Commandment is grinding his ass off this season, and so far his Cash Cup placements alongside Avery have proven that. 4th, 7th, and then at 26th, but those top 10 twice are looking very good. Rave Cave, Slurp Truck as well, so south side of Rave Cave, similar to Thomas and Tripburn, it's a powerful drop and a lot can be done from it. So I'm excited to see whether they show up big on the big stages. Between the two of them, they have some of the highest placements in FNCS as a duo, so I'm excited to see whether they can show up in Grands. Also, Chimp and Spade, last 2 FNCSs, they've both placed top 10, with one of them being 2nd place. I always talk about how Chimp is the best player in the world for having the worst keybinds. This man has scroll wheel up and scroll wheel down as builds and doesn't have scroll wheel reset. So if you controller guys who's saying scroll wheel reset carries all mouse and keyboard players, it does not carry Chimp. They are dropping Sunny Step Split, which scares me a little bit if we start getting some really tough south zones. It is a rough drop spot, but they have been playing very, very consistent out of that drop spot and have a lot of practice out of it as well. The last team I want to mention is the most consistent team as far as Kaz and Who Fishy. They are a duo who have been playing together for such a long time. I think if Kaz and Who Fishy split up as a duo, I no longer believe in friendship. They really do play together as best friends and their vibes are immaculate. Last FNCS, they came 13th. They've had some good Cash Cup placements this season, a 7th, 10th, 11th, and 17th. They are dropping the Fortress split, so depending on what happens mid-map, they really could get involved in some of those engagements in the mid-map, get some free surge, get some eliminations, and I think they are one of the underdogs to do well here. I know it's weird to not have the FNCS champions of last season in my top 5 or even in my underrated picks, but I do have to give them a special mention. Peterbot and Byler, when they are on, when they are performing like they did last FNCS, they shock everybody. Almost no one had them picked to win last FNCS. I didn't even have them on my radar and they proved me wrong, and they might do it again this FNCS. But if you've been watching my videos, you know they have had some very weird chemistry issues. They have split up, I think, 2 or 3 times since winning FNCS and have reformed. But if they're playing well, if they put that behind them and just focus on the game, they could be a favorite to win it. But if they start playing inconsistently in a 12-game format, I'm worried their mental and their lack of chemistry will get the worst of them and they will tilt and they won't perform. But if they keep the vibes high, they could easily do it. Now, let's take a look at your guys' predictions. Let's see where you agreed with and where you didn't agree with me. So far, your highest predicted team at over 88% is Miro and Booga. So you agree with me on that one out of the gate. I again think it should be a little bit lower of other teams, maybe like Scented and Cold, Ages and Canada, just because of their performances so far this season. But Miro and Booga as a top 5 is a very, very safe bet. Speaking of, Ages and Canada on 63.4%, so you guys definitely agree with me. I do think they are the favorites coming into this just personally, but Scented and Cold 70.6%. You guys are very, very clearly paying attention. Then you had Acorn and Edgy at 51.7%, and then the one where you kind of disagree with me, 31% of you guys still did agree with me, you had Jampa and Iomzo. So far the top 5 you guys have kind of agreed with me. The main one where we've disagreed is Peterbot and Byler. A lot of you guys have gone off the fact that they are the reigning champions. Fully understandable. Almost half of you predicting they would do well. I do think if you've been been paying attention, they have their ups and downs, and I guess you guys have pinned the fact they'll have an up, whereas I'm guessing they're going to have a down. I guess we'll see. The one that I knew was going to be a big difference, Dukes and Clicks. Again, big fan favorites, but still only 27.2% of you predicting them, despite how many Clicks fanboys we normally have, is actually less than what I would have expected. A lot of you guys have been paying attention to their shaky season. You guys also did have Commandment and Avery at 10%. So a few of you guys paying attention to the underrated goats there as well. We did have some other crowd favorites, Cease and Day getting up there of almost 10%. I think that is an ambitious one just based on their consistency so far this season. But a team that I didn't even talk about that now I'm kind of realizing maybe I should have at least mentioned, Quanti and Polarized. 17% of you guys backing them. Quanti and Polarized have played very, very well this season, but previously Polarized has struggled in grand finals. We'll see if this is the season where he can break that spell. But so far, your guys' predictions are looking pretty good. All right, guys, that does it for another video. It was a long one. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please chuck a like on it. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't, and I'll see you in the next one.